please close your eyes. Think back just under 5 years ago, just over 5 years ago. It is the 26th of March, 2020. It's a Friday morning, and it's lockdown level 5. First day of lockdown. Just think, where were you? How did you wake up? Did you also hear the birds singing because there's no traffic? We, like one of my participants, that pulled out a garden chair at 10 a.m. in the morning, sat down with a beer and go, what the? And I'm using cuss words because it is apparently quite vogue at the moment. So what I'm doing is taking you back to that morning. And what are you feeling? How are you feeling? Do you still get that little hiccup? You know, that little frisson, the lump in your stomach? Is your heart beating faster? Are your palms clammy? That is the feeling that you get when you work with your data. If you collect your data during a time that is really difficult, your body, there's an embodied experience of this. Now, how do you deal with it? You take and you make yourself grounded. One of the techniques that I learned is you literally just take a deep breath in and you exhale. You exhale more than you inhale. Usually there's a count from 5 to 9, 5 inhale, 5 exhale. There are things that you do that you ground yourself. You look at 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. All of those aspects are incredibly important. And this is where it comes to the ethics. Because you as a researcher didn't think that you're going to have such a visceral response to your context. And this is where I was working on extreme contexts and sense-making within these extreme contexts. I was working with entrepreneurs that were facing COVID now. This is not what I intended to do, but ever so suddenly, the extreme context was thrust upon us, and we just had to do something with it. In the discussions that I had in the sort of the pilot call, talking to the participants and getting their buy-in and letting them come on board, I would ask them, okay, I'm doing a longitudinal study in the essence that I'm doing an entry interview, I'm doing daily diaries or daily contacts with them on WhatsApp, which is quite an intimate channel, and then I'm going to have an exit interview or an ending, a debriefing. And more than one of my participants, as I was having this call, they said, I'm happy to participate, but I don't know whether I'm going to have a business at the end of 5 weeks. And not just once, not just twice, not just thrice. So, ever so suddenly there's this incredible context that you're working with and that your participants are working with. And during the course of it's 3 weeks, it was 15 working days. This is something that you hear on a daily basis. Because I was asking, on one day I'll ask, what makes sense? What doesn't make sense? What was the one event this week that stood out? And getting this from all of my participants across the same time, when they're struggling with lockdown 5, lockdown 4, when will we be able to do business? One of my participants is a travel agent. And I guess, travel agencies have, as an industry, really struggled, and then ever so suddenly there were no tourists. They were working with international clients. So what do? You've got 3 people working for you, and what do you do? So from an ethical point, it was really important and something that I did not realize. And what the chapter is about is how do you, as researcher, work through those experiences? And most importantly, what happens with your data? And how do you relate to your data? How do you respond to your data? Because if you've got a 2-hour interview and you're doing a transcript that is verbatim transcripts, and then you go through the transcription, which is generally 1 to 4 hours, depending on the difficulty of the interview, then you're going through the coding. I was doing line-by-line coding, which is a really in-depth, deep dive into what the data is. And I didn't know or realize what the impact on me as a researcher will have, and then what the data and my interpretation of the data would be. So from an ethical point of view, very often there's an imbalance in the interviewer-interviewee discussion. People saying, but the interviewer has got the powers on them, and the interviewee is sort of the person that just provides data. And absolutely not. There's a reciprocal process. But in these instances, the interviewee has more power than the interviewer. And from an ethics point of view, we all focus on informed consent and the rights of the participant. But very often the focus does not go on what the rights of the actual interviewer or researcher is. And I was trying to find answers. It was getting really bad. I was absolutely overwhelmed with negative, not just in the context, the overall context from South Africa, my community, the world, but from my participants as well. And I think this is one of the areas where there just wasn't any guidance. And my story is how I had to struggle to find that guidance. And very often it's in your structures, it's in your community, it's how you relate to what's happening. And thinking from a cognitive experience, understanding the emotional context, and absolutely look at the embodied experience. You cannot have any of the others independently. They all pull together. And this is why context is so important.